I've heard a lot of talk about the Ultimate X-Men, the new one for 2024, with how it's so much different than any other X-Men comic beforehand, with a more manga-type feel, and having heard of it, I just had to check it out. Now, I've heard a mix of things, from it's great to it's horrible, but after reading it for myself, I really enjoyed it. Enough that I kinda think that this might become the first series I will review on this channel. Now, I know I'm late, so I'll try my best to catch up, with this video being the first two issues as they need to catch up quicker. I know not everyone will enjoy someone reviewing the older issues as, well, you know, it's been out for a while, so I understand as to why the fact that most people probably won't stick around. But I hope you do, because I have some thoughts about different concepts and characters that have been shown. So, I don't know. I hope you stick around, but I get it if you don't, of course. Now, issue 1. We start at a high school introduced to Hazaku, a young girl who feels like an outsider among her peers and feels looked down upon. We're shown that even the people that she thinks are her friends talk badly behind her back. Well, in front of her face too, because she didn't even try to hide it. Fake friends typically wait until you turn your back, but this one just straight up did it to her face. Hisaku comes across a note inside this button, asking to meet her outside of a temple on top of a mountain. Only for when she goes, she sees a young boy who she recognizes, and quickly rationalizes it as being she's seeing things. Just to see this strange shadow, who gives her this pendant, which is the same one a friend of hers once gave her, the same boy she thought she saw. Tsubaza. I am so sorry, I probably mispronounced that really badly. This shadow goes on about this young boy, and how close Hazaku was with him, but how that friendship met an abrupt ending. The boy was constantly bullied, and Hazaku not knowing how to help him, being only a kid herself at the time, leading to Tsubaza taking his own life. This would break Hazaku, turning herself into the closed-off teenager we see today. This shadow, I'm fairly certain is Shadow King, goes on a rant telling her that it's all her fault for not trying harder to help her friend, saying that she's the one who killed him. He also mentions having known Tsubaza himself, but nowhere as much as Hazaku. The shadow then vanishes, leaving only a scarecrow behind. But Hisako feels something touching the back of her head, and this was the moment that made me love this comic. She turns around to find her dead friend hanging over her in such a terrifying way. This panel alone scares me, but I like it. It evokes what it needs to, because it's not just scary visually, but knowing how close Hisako was to him, to then see him like this. It would be a lot. It's a lot for us just reading it. It's scary visually, but it's also terrifying emotionally. Just thinking about someone that you were close to dying and then seeing this image. It's a lot. Hisaku books it being terrified when a car nearly hits her just for this pink armor to form around her, the power of her 616 counterpart, that being of course armor. Although in this version the pink armor seems to be sentient, more in tone with different manga stories opposed to being her own power set. I mean, it is her powers, but it's different. This also isn't the first time the armor has been a main character of a Japanese entertainment media. For example, she was a main character in the X-Men anime from 2011. The next day, Hisaku goes back to the temple where she's once again met with the Shadow King. However, is surprised to learn that Hisaku can fight back, protecting herself with the armor. The fight ends with Hisaku hoping for this doll to be a dream, only for Tsubaza to appear to her, saying it was too late, before disappearing as Hisaku gets a call. Tsubaba's, okay, I'm getting worse and worse with that name. Anyways, his old coach was found dead, having hung himself, or supposedly hung himself. The issue ends with Hisaku knowing that something is certainly up, and whatever it is, she's in the middle of it. The next issue starts with Hisaku having a shadow dream, speaking with okay, I can't say that name, showing where he would confide in her about his emotions surrounding everything. Hisako wakes up with a note in her hand, that to go to her old school. She runs out on a mission, although she has to go to high school first. While at high school that day, Hisaku meets a new girl named Mei, who's actually an original character to the series, although she seems to be kinda based on a few different mutant characters. Or at least her powers are. Mei comes off very strongly, seemingly being aware of Hisaku's powers, being kinda weird, but to Hisaku that means that maybe she'll believe her and come with her to the old school, not wanting to go alone. Mei goes with Hisaku, where the two bond over a conversation with how Mei knows Hisaku is the one with superpowers. which she finds kinda cool and thinks that makes her a superhero. They're met with a guard who brings them to this shrine room where the Shadow King is waiting, taunting the two girls, while the guard turns into a monster made of bugs. Mai then shows her own power set, an ability to control wind, destroying the monster, revealing why Mai was so calm about Hazaku having powers too. They then use their powers to get away from the Shadow King, where they bond over the traumatic experience. But the issue ends revealing that Tsubasa's former bullies were also found hung, in the exact same way that the coach was. Although we're shown that Mai and Hazaku plan to work together to find out what the Shadow is. Now, like I said, I really enjoyed these two issues. I do think the series has a bit of a misleading title. I think maybe calling them New Mutants would have been a better and fitting name. I also know from future descriptions that they're actually called the New Mutants later on. They're probably called the X-Men for branding, but it is a bit confusing to me. But outside of that, I'm really enjoying it. The mystery is very intense, you feel genuine danger. It's a strong mix of horror, trauma, and yet still includes some very cute moments. Now I will admit, I've never been a huge armor person, but so far I think in this series she's a very strong lead, and how a childhood mistake is coming back for her. After all, she was just a kid, and shouldn't be blamed for not knowing how to react, but at the same time you understand why Hisako feels guilty over the whole thing. I also like the fact that despite the fact that she comes across at first a bit hesitant and scared of the Shadow King, which, understandable, she's willing to fight back. Mai, on the other hand, is a very strong and new addition. I think her friendship with Hisaku is needed since I think Hisaku just needs a friend. I like her airbending powers, even though we've seen very little of it so far. Overall, for an original character to the series, she's a pretty decent addition. Enough so, I kinda wish the character would bleed back into 616. Yet again, I've only read one issue with the character, so she could turn out to be a horrible character eventually. But so far, it's a strong start. And for the villain, who I'm pretty sure is either Shadow King or an original character based on Shadow King, he is so creepy and chilling. The art is very simple with the character, yet speaks volume. It's well done. It's not a lot to make the character come across scary. There's also just a lot of dark visuals in this story, a lot more than I thought there would be, and most of them come from the Shadow King. Now, like said, I know I'm behind, so I plan to review issues 3 and 4 together, and if issue 6 is out by the time I'm on to issue 5, I'll likely combine them too. Either way, what are your thoughts on this series? You can spill things down below if you want. It's what I get for being behind. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!